The Chiropractic Philanthropist, episode 251.
Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
Doing great, Ed. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we put this together pretty quickly, so I'm excited about this call and this interview because I got to tell you, I mean, I saw a thread, and I'm just going to kind of throw a hook in here for listeners. I saw a thread on Facebook, and I got so excited. I'm like, dude, I gotta have Austin Cohen, Dr. Austin Cohen on TCP. I got to share this with chiropractors. But before we get into this, for those chiropractors listening that don't know who you are, tell us about you as a person. Tell us about you as a chiropractor.
Yeah, man, me as a person, me as a chiropractor, I'm someone who's on the grind. I'm a guy who's a go-getter. I'm a guy who's out there. And with that sometimes comes flaws, but I'm someone who's willing to make sacrifices in order to make certain things happen. That's the kind of guy I am. So just a couple examples, I've done 2 Ironman, I've written books, I've built 3 practices, I've done a lot of these things, and it just comes with the territory of the type of guy that I am as well. But great thing personally is I've got an amazing daughter, I have an amazing wife, and living in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, which couldn't be more beautiful. So loving it, man.
Well, give me a little idea here too about how long have you been in practice? What's the timeline that you had with your first practice and then expanding into two other practices, and how that actually happened for you?
Yeah, and this will even share a little bit more about who I am. So I graduated in March of 2009 from Life University, and graduation was from 9 to 12. And so at 1 p.m., I actually had a meeting set up with the mayor of Atlanta, and I wanted to share my vision with this guy. I was like, hey man, I want you to understand what I do. So it was really funny, actually. We're like taking pictures like 12:15. My family wants to take pictures with me. I still have like my cap and gown, but like under there, I've got like my business suit ready to go to meet this person. My family's like, where are you going? What are you doing? We got to take pictures. I thought we were going to go to lunch after this. I'm like, guys, I'm going to meet the mayor. So literally went to meet the mayor of Atlanta, shared with him my vision. 6 months later, we ended up opening our first practice. We opened in about September, October 2009, and literally just hit a home run from the beginning. The only down month we've had so far ever in the practice is in November of 2009. We lost $200, but it's been one of the most amazing experiences. And when I started, it was actually just me and a CA. I started off with just myself and a chiropractic assistant. That was it, and we grinded for 2-3 years. And as the years have gone on, I've always been expanding. I never had that vision though, which is interesting because when I first started, my goal was, all right, I'm going to get started. It's going to be me and a front desk person. It's going to be me and a CA, and we're just going to hustle really hard. We got to get to 300 visits a week. We're going to be making $45,000 a month. And that was it. That's all I wanted. But then as the years went on, about 3-4 years into it, brought in a massage therapist. That vision expanded. Then a few years later, we had an opportunity to open a chiropractic office in a CrossFit gym. We had access to 300 square feet. That was it. And so we ended up taking that opportunity. I found a chiropractor who's a great guy, and he ended up going in there back in 2015, and that's when we expanded that practice into the second location. And it's been doing really well. We've been very fortunate over there. There's a lot of congruency with the lifestyle of CrossFitters and chiropractic. And then in October of 2016, we opened our third practice in Decatur, which is also in Atlanta, Georgia. And each practice is about 25 minutes away. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, Ed, hey, Austin, what's your vision? Not this at all. But I'm very open to opportunity. I'm a huge risk taker. And it's been very fortunate and very blessed to see how everything's grown and really taken off since that meeting with the mayor back 7 years ago.
That's crazy, isn't it? That when you're in such a state of expansion in your business and life, how it's hard to look back and go, 2, 3, probably even 6 months ago, some things like you're doing today, you'd be like, man, I never would have thought I would be doing that. I mean, someone asked me, hey, Ed, will you come and speak or present in April next year? And I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in April next year. Like, I have no idea. And I want more chiropractors. My mission is to have more chiropractors experience that type of expansion. So again, I want to thank you for being on the show. And we're going to be getting into that CrossFit conversation in a second too. Before we do, I want some, words of affirmation, some positive words for our listeners, or positive words that you have.
There's a quote I live my life by, and if you went to my office, my Buckhead office, we actually have this on our t-shirts, the t-shirts that we give out to our patients of the week. And it says, how you do anything in life is how you do everything in life. And, when you talk about expansion, it's kind of interesting how you're saying, I don't know what I'd be doing. I couldn't visualize myself doing that. Well, it's interesting you say that. When I'm talking to chiropractors, a lot of them, they're always asking me about growth and expansion and vision. And I always tell them, I say, do something you don't think you could ever do. So one thing for me personally was I challenged myself to do an Ironman back in 2014. And it was something that I never thought was possible. I ran a marathon in 2006. I ran a marathon in 2008. I did a half Ironman in 2009. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? And when I remember finishing that half Ironman being like, I can't believe people do full Ironman. That is stupid. Why would anyone ever do that? I couldn't even imagine training for this. And I remember back in 2014, I said to myself, Austin, how you do anything is how you do everything. If you can push yourself and challenge yourself to do something you never thought you could do, what other opportunities in life will show up? And if you look at, the rate, and you look at the interaction between how, when I was doing that, how we actually added in a nutritionist into the practice. Because, I'm not a nutritionist. That's not my goal. I'm trying to adjust people. So we brought a nutritionist to the practice. We then had that opportunity to open another location. Now we have this other opportunity opening up this third location. I had a book come out January 2016. So it's interesting how when you challenge yourself and push yourself, and if you do that, you'll see other opportunities show up. So, man, the quote I would give to any chiropractor listening right now, and to follow verbatim, is how you do anything in life is how you do everything in life.
And so let's get into the struggle. I mean, it sounds like, almost like you sound almost like the chiropractic unicorn. Like you come out of practice, things took off right from day one. But here's the thing is, we all know that it took a lot of work to get there. And there must have been some struggle maybe along the way. Can you share with us, like, maybe some times that you've had a difficulty, what you learned from those experiences, the lessons? Yeah,
to be honest, you're right. I mean, 7 years, it hasn't always been, rainbows and roses. There's definitely been some times where we've definitely had to work and hustle a little bit harder in order to make ends meet or to attract more new patients. I know for us, at least, a couple examples, actually. One was, it was in January of 2012, and I remember getting a text message from one of my CAs or one of her friends that said she wasn't going to show up. And she did this for 2 days, and I'm in the practice by myself. At that point, we were adjusting maybe like 50, 60 people a day or so. And, I'm doing all these people. There's massage, therapy that's going on in the practice at that point. So I'm trying to manage this whole thing. I didn't bring anybody in because I didn't know when she would be back. Well, 3 days go by, and I'm like, something fishy is going on here. So I found out that this CA actually attempted to commit suicide and take her life. And man, that was one of the toughest things to go through for my practice, was having to try and tell patients what happened to her having to try and manage his practice. You can't get rid of somebody like that. You can't just fire somebody because of depression and anxiety issues. So then I'm trying to deal with that, side of the coin, and then figuring out if I need to bring somebody else in and paying them. So listen, man, that part was really tough. And I think one thing that I was very fortunate to learn early on in practice was to trust the process of time. And, that's one of our principles in chiropractic, right? All processes require time. And I never got stressed out about it. And like I said, I was very fortunate early on to kind of understand never making decisions based on emotion. And so I never made really poor decisions based on the emotional state I was in. I just sat back, I breathed, I prayed on it, I meditated on it. And lo and behold, eventually she ended up coming back into the practice. We realized that things just weren't a good fit. She moved up to Pennsylvania. And in fact, I actually got an amazing CA from that when she left. So, it was a struggle during the time, but the outcome of that was one of the most amazing outcomes. And that girl who we hired, by the way, when she left, ended up becoming our nutritionist, who now actually grosses us over about $150,000 in standard process supplements a year. So it's been amazing to see like that transition. And just one other one too. I know chiropractors sometimes, there's decisions sometimes we have to make as chiropractors in a business standpoint. And for me, that was last year when I was deciding to open up my second practice. And what I had was we were going to open in October 1st of 2015. Well, the chiropractor that was going to work for me, I needed to hire him to get him on board, get him marketing. And I was going to have to bring him in and start paying him around August 2015. So that's another chiropractic salary. We pay benefits. I treat my employees great. I pay health insurance. I do dental, vision, 401ks. I do all the good stuff, man. So I had to add that expense. Then I was hiring a CA at the time. Our practice was booming. We were, busting out between like 100, 125 a day at that point. So we had to make sure that we had a second CA. So I had to add in 2 salaries and benefits all in August of 2015. And like I said, with trust, patience, not making emotional decisions, it's paid itself off. But during that time, man, I'm not going to lie, man, shit was scary. Like, how am I going to pay for this payroll? I mean, I'm seeing like, $20,000 to $30,000, payrolls. It was getting crazy. But I put in the time with that chiropractor, taught him and trained him what to do in order to build a successful practice, put in the time and trained my CA who I brought on about how to run an efficient chiropractic office. And now everything's streamlined, everything's great. But it was just about making those decisions and having to go through that for a little bit of time and then come right back out of it. Sometimes I see a lot of chiropractors, you probably see this as well. The decisions they make are based on emotions, and it's usually not thought out. You have to tell them to take a step back for a second. Think about the whole big picture. Look at things from other people's point of view. Look at it from the real big picture of this. So, man, those were definitely some tough situations that I will say that we had to go through.
And pulling from this, and those times where you had that learning curve, just pulling from this, I can see that, you trusted in the process, and that there's certainly, investing in people can certainly have the side effect also of helping grow your business, but also I'm sure they're very loyal to you as well and to your business. Very.
And, the people who usually stay at our practice, who we hire on, usually stay with us for a pretty long time. We run a really good program. There's a book I would definitely recommend all chiropractors get. The book is called Traction. And there's a program that we've hired. We've actually hired an implementer. And essentially what this implementer does, he comes out to our practice, and we have a whole language in our practice. There's 8 employees, so everyone has different positions, but everyone needs to know what they're doing at every time. And at our Monday meetings, everybody reports on what is their scorecard, how are their rocks doing for the quarter, which are essentially their goals for the quarter. What are our issues for the week? What are our to-do lists for the week? And all this is in that book, Traction, but it's really good to keep everybody on the same page and just constantly, I'm always constantly investing back in my employees. And, I see this a lot with chiropractors, unfortunately, is they're always trying to get away with paying them the least amount of money and the little amount of benefits. And that always frustrates me because, if you think about it, if I were to take one of my employees and let's say I add like $3,000 to their salary, in the grand scheme of things, that's really not that much money over like a year span, or each per paycheck. And the value that they could add to my practice. There's a big difference between like a $25,000 a year employee versus like a $37,000 CA. Huge difference. So, and then once you start providing benefits and all these things, it really just makes a whole big difference. And I'm all about taking care of employees.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a perfect takeaway for chiropractors too, is to, they're listening today, is really just, take care of your employees, treat them well. And again, I mean, it's see the big payoff really coming back to you in terms of growth in your business, but also again, that loyalty. I mean, how many of us go through that process of hiring and firing and all those different frustrations that can come with having a team?
And I went through 7 CAs my first 3 years. I mean, it was unbelievable. And it's, the thing was in chiropractic school, they don't teach you how to run a business. They don't teach you how to deal with employees. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things that anybody could ever learn is dealing with employees and staff. I think that's probably, for me at least, that was one of the hardest things that we could have ever done. But what I realized was once I made things fair and essentially what I like to call is put the golden handcuffs on them, then it's really anytime the decision was for anybody leaving the practice, it was always on my terms. It was always like, hey, you're out. It was never them leaving me. It was always me getting rid of them if they weren't ready. And it was all about just adding that value for them and why they want to work in the practice. So creating the benefits, creating their great salary, and then just building up the why.
That is a powerful perspective there. Thank you for that. And so I want to get into this conversation, this CrossFit conversation. This is exciting to me. We haven't really had this discussion, not to any real depth on the chiropractic philanthropist, maybe just, kind of scratching the surface, but you're diving deep. I mean, you have a practice that's actually embedded inside a CrossFit facility, right? And now you're actually coming out and showing chiropractors how they can do the same, build relationships with CrossFit facilities, because, they're popping up all around our practices. And how that you can benefit each other. It can be a reciprocal, right?
Oh man, this is a $4 billion business right now. I mean, CrossFit is huge. By now, at least, I would bet everybody listening to this call knows what CrossFit is.
Yeah.
And my first practice, the way I got into it was in 2009. I started doing the sport, and I did it for a workout. That was essentially why I went. I just wanted to get a good workout. I wanted to be fit. What started happening was I was a big endurance guy, and we were adjusting a lot of people, and I kept getting sore. Like I said, I did marathons. So, I got sore as I was adjusting people, so I needed to build strength, and that's why I joined CrossFit. Well, I remember one of the owners came up to me and goes, "Hey, Austin, can you check out my elbow? Something's wrong with my elbow." And I'm like, hey, of course I tie everything back to the spine, right? I'm like, yeah, let's check it out. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, your neck's completely limited. You have no motion in your neck. Let's definitely get you checked out in the office. So we did that. We did some x-rays, and literally that person after that exam was like, man, this is awesome stuff you guys do here. I need all of my clients seeing you. And from that, the whole thing just took off. Now, this wasn't an overnight thing, just so people understand this. This was something that had developed over time. Now, it was about 6 months before we really started just like people pouring in. And then what started happening is we started having other gyms. Because here's how CrossFit works, and you're probably familiar with this. Whenever there's a huge CrossFit gym, what ends up happening is the way these other CrossFit gyms open is because they were going to a CrossFit gym before. And then what they did is one of the coaches or one of the big members, usually what they did is they partnered up with a couple investors and they opened up their own. Yeah. So then you've got seeds spitting out all over the place. And so now we actually have 11 CrossFit gyms that refer to us in Atlanta. It's about a $500,000 business just for our Buckhead location, which is my main location. And then the other office that you're talking about, that's the Sandy Springs, that's out of a CrossFit gym. That location right there is about a $250,000 business. And I mean, it's huge. Like, there are so many people, and here's what's great about it that I love. I get so excited when I talk about this because I get chiropractors asking me all the time. They see all these pictures of all these athletes that I take care of, and especially CrossFit athletes, and they say, what are you doing to get in there? What are you doing to take care of these people? And literally, I'm actually just part of their community. I mean, I'm doing it because I love them. I love taking care of them, but they love us just as much. People don't go to a CrossFit gym usually to work out. They're going there for the community, the lifestyle, essentially what it breeds. This, people who do CrossFit, they're into paleo, mobility, recovery. That's huge language that CrossFitters use. People who go to Orange Theory Fitness, people who go to LA Fitness, people who go to these big gyms, they're going just to work out. They're not about the social, the community, the paleo lifestyle. And so CrossFitters really get it, and it works really well between the two of us in that relationship.
And they're super tight communities, super tight.
Oh
So
my God. Yeah, these
when
people are referring left and right. And what's cool is once you start getting people from these gyms, listen, these people have friends outside of the gym. These people have friends, they have family. The way I always describe it is once you get in with the owners, then the owner, and I kind of draw this like big tree, okay? And you start with the owners. Once you get to the owners, then you got the coaches. Then you got the coaches, then you get the athletes under that. Then after you get the athletes, then you get the coworkers, their friends, and their family members. And then it just the whole thing just trickles, man. It's unbelievable to see if you really do it right, what can happen to your practice. And what's cool is, first off, these people are paying between $150 to $200 a month for their CrossFit memberships.
Yeah.
So they've got money because they could go to a $20 to $30 gym with a monthly membership, but they choose to go to this place and pay $150 to $200 a month. They're also paying to eat healthier. Most of them are subscribing to the paleo diet. And also a lot of them, listen, man, it's literally just a huge cash practice that somebody could build for their office. It's awesome.
they take injury and training very seriously too. From my experience, like, I mean, because I would go in, I give you a little, in our pre-chat, I was like, hey, I started CrossFit begrudgingly back in like '06. It was like one of the first CrossFit facilities in Edmonton, Alberta area. It was actually the first, I should say. And yeah, we built a great relationship. Two of my CAs actually went on to open their own facilities. I mean, and we introduced them to CrossFit. But and I don't know if have you ever heard of Dine with the Doc, Dr. Austin?
Is that like dinner with the docs?
Yeah, Dine with the Doc, dinner with the Doc, those types of programs. Yeah. Instead, we had workout with the Doc. And so we would go to we would take, we would meet on a Saturday morning, and they would have a special half hour, just a short workout at a CrossFit facility with myself and my wife and with some of our patients. And it was just a really great relationship. We had tons of fun. It was reciprocal. And the people that were working out, and tell me if I'm wrong, like, I mean, if you can help them better understand that when they're training, that they're not really, they're training their nervous system and make that link for them, and that they can compete better, or, they'll shave time on their workouts, then they'll be in your office all day long. That's
what's cool. Most of the people that come to me, they don't, it's funny when people know in the city of Atlanta, most people, especially my patients who are not CrossFitters, they know we're huge in that community because, a lot of my patients are on ESPN at the CrossFit games. So they know we're pretty big into this community, and they see them in my office all the time. And, a lot of these professional CrossFitters, they come actually to Atlanta for certain conferences and competitions. They come to our office to get adjusted. So our patients see them. They're always like, so do these people come to you because they're always hurt? And it's actually, and I tell them, like, funny you say that. It's the exact opposite. Yeah. They come to me because they want to squat more weight. They come to me because they're loading up their spines with massive amounts of weight. So they want to deload their body. They come to me because their nervous system is under so much stress that they need to shut it down. They're coming to me because they just want to run, 10 seconds faster. So the reason why most of the CrossFit clients come to me actually is for better performance. Mm-hmm. Very few of them come to me because they did something to their body. It's actually very rare. Most of my maintenance patients are CrossFitters. And the line I always use to them, and the quote I always say to them, because I do a ton of workshops for them, different CrossFit gyms are always asking us to come out there. Because listen, the healthier their patients are, the healthier their clients are, the less cancellations they're going to have, and it's going to be just a better all over community. But the line I always tell them is, if you're going to train like an elite athlete, you have to take care of your body like an elite athlete. So these people sit in front of computers all day as accountants and lawyers and computer IT people and whatever they do, and they expect to sit all day and then go train like a professional athlete. It doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. You've got to be doing the things necessary in order to take care of your body to live like a elite athlete. If you want to not get hurt and you want to actually live a good quality of life long term, and they get that, and they're like, all right, what do I need to do? Mm-hmm. It's like build a healthcare team, build a team of people that are going to take care of you. You got chiropractors, PTs, massage. A lot of us, work really well together in Atlanta. There's the best of that for all CrossFitters. Find a good nutrition, so they get it, and once they get it, man, they are the most loyal people of all time.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to make this point for people who are listening, for docs that are listening right now too. Is like, I had a family pediatric practice, and so there's a lot of families that go to CrossFit, but also it wasn't. You don't have to have a sports chiropractic office, sports specific office to work with a CrossFit facility. And actually, I would suggest you don't have one. That they really get it, that you don't need to, when they really get it about the structure and how important alignment is, and loading weight onto a faulty structure and all these different analogies you can make for them. They're just lifetime patients, and they bring in their kids. Again, I love CrossFit, and I think it's just an incredible value what you're bringing. So let's talk about that. Tell us a little bit about what you're bringing here for chiropractors and for the profession, then to help other chiropractors build these relationships.
Man, so Ed, literally at least once a week, I get a Facebook message from a chiropractor that says, "Hey doc, what are you doing to get into these CrossFit gyms? How do I do it?" Mm-hmm. They know how big business it is for us. They see a lot of other chiropractors involved with CrossFit gyms as well. So they know there's a need for it. And listen, the first ones that do this are going to win. And it's going to be just a matter of time before there's a chiropractor at each CrossFit gym. So to be honest with you, hopefully you're listening to this early so you can get access to this. But what I've done is essentially used all the strategies and tools that I've done to get into these gyms and help people step by step. Chiropractors, sometimes I was getting messages from chiropractors that were saying, "Hey doc, I went to this CrossFit gym and I told them that I'm willing to take care of all their people because they're all getting hurt and they should send everybody to me." And it was like, no, dude, you did it all wrong. And so there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. I teach everyone my everything I've learned, and I teach them the right way to do it. So essentially what I've done is put together what's called a playbook. In that playbook tells you how to prepare for your first class, what class you need to attend for your first class, what do you do after that class, how do you build a relationship with the owner, how do you set up your workshops, what do you do during the workshops, what do you do after the workshops, what are other events you could be doing with them. For instance, one thing we do with CrossFit gyms is we do client appreciation days with these CrossFit gyms. We provide all the food and the alcohol, and then we create the workout. It's a fun atmosphere, and then we sign people up. So great. Those are some of the chapters that are in the book. Then outside of the book, we're also giving people on this members page, we're giving people, I did 3 live workshops for people. And essentially I put those on there as well so they can actually see my language and what I'm sharing with these CrossFitters to get them to come in. It's funny, actually, when we were doing the demos for the members page, we asked these people to be part of our audience, and one of the ladies goes, "Hey," she's like, "I gotta start seeing you." We actually got a patient from just doing demos. It was hilarious. And I told Emily Bridgers, who's one of the athletes, who's a professional athlete who's doing this with me, she was like, "I cannot believe that just happened. That is hilarious." She's like, "It just goes to show how well this works." Yeah. And so they're going to get that. They're going to get interviews as well. I put together interviews with different owners and athletes. And my main question to them is, what are you looking for when either referring to a chiropractor or whether you're going to see a chiropractor? So I have multiple CrossFit Games athletes. I've got CrossFit Games coaches. I've got CrossFit gym owners. And then two other things that are in there is I put together a book. I wrote a book in January, like I said. It's called Eliteness. And that book is literally a step-by-step guide for athletes on what they can do in order to be the best of the best. And that book essentially is a PDF book that they can use for capturing email. So they could do a workshop and say, "Hey, if you can hand us your email, we'll go ahead and send you this free book." So it's a great way for them to do that. And then finally, one of my favorite things is we're going to give we created a Facebook page, a private Facebook page with Emily Bridgers. Do you know who that is, Doc?
Yeah, competitive athlete, for CrossFit.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. She was number 6 in the CrossFit Games a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. She's been a CrossFit Invitational. She's won that. Huge athlete, over 150,000 followers on Instagram. Wow. So somebody who CrossFitters or somebody who chiropractors want to have on their side. And guys, good news, she's on our team and she's big onto our team. She loves chiropractic. And she'll share her chiropractic story with everyone, in the long run. But everyone's going to have access to a private Facebook page with her. And we have a community that we're going to be building there. So while people are going through this workshop, this guidebook, watching the videos, they can ask questions in the private Facebook group about, "Hey, Doc, I tried doing this. How do I do this? Hey, what event are you doing here?" And then Emily and I are just going to keep pumping information into that. So they just keep getting value and value and value and value. And they're going to get 3 months of that in that Facebook group. So just getting tons of value in there so they can make sure they're doing this the right way. And then also use her as a resource to getting into these gyms. Because she knows all the top athletes in the world. She's good friends with, it's so funny. I'll be in my office adjusting her and I'll look at her phone and she's like, "Hey," and Rich Froning, many of you probably know who that is, is texting her. Or Stacy Tovar or Becca Voigt or Sam Briggs. It's so funny to see how all these athletes just they communicate with each other. And I'm always like so starstruck when I see like a text message. But man, we're giving that's what we want for all these chiropractors. I mean, with all that information right there that I shared, that's guaranteed to get you into these gyms. I mean, at least one. Yeah. And if you do it the right way, you can get into more. And what some chiropractors are doing is they're actually utilizing the strategies that I integrated into that book and the workshops, and they're actually using it for like yoga studios, Pilates studios. So it's interesting to hear what some of these chiropractors are doing, which is great and real creative marketing. But man, it's a huge niche, and I just wanted to provide something for the chiropractic world because they need this really bad. And it shouldn't be like I don't live in Wisconsin, California, and there's all these CrossFit gyms over there that people need access to. So that's why I did this, Ed.
I got to tell you, I mean, I've had Dr. Austin, I've had like probably, I don't even know, 246 interviews on TCP now. And I love the unique factor of this, but I also love the part about it's just going to help so many chiropractors be more successful in practice and build incredible relationships with fitness facilities like CrossFit gyms in there, and it could be even a fitness facility, but in their community. So how can docs actually find you? How can they actually reach out, get some more information about this?
Yeah, if you're interested in tapping into this market and watching this growing community, I mean, literally just seeing how fast it's growing is unbelievable. But if you want access to this, go to elitenessforchiropractors.com. So it's elitenessforchiropractors.com, and the 4 is FOR. And go to there. You'll get a few videos so you can see about what we're all about. And then from there, you'll be able to learn more about what it goes along with the playbook. But and any questions you have, you can always shoot me an email. Ed, I don't know if we can put my email on any of the notes page, but we can put that on there if anyone has any questions about anything. And listen, I'm looking forward to seeing people on the Facebook group. We actually we do have a public Facebook group as well that gives free information. Like if you're not ready to take that next step, you can go on the free Facebook page. But listen, for those of you that want to take action and be that leader in the community for your CrossFitters, the faster you do it, the better, because I'm not saying only one person in one zip code can buy. I mean, anybody, anywhere can get this information from it. So the first people that do it are going to really be the ones that are winning in this department.
Yeah, it's always important to be ahead of the curve. And again, I just think I have had similar conversations with so many different chiropractors. I've just kind of been waiting for this to come out, and I see that you pulled the trigger. So I love when when I see chiropractors executing on their vision. So Doc, I'm gonna kind of just wrap up our conversation with 2 final questions. One, I'll just kind of throw it to you. It's our TCP time machine. So what I'm gonna do, Doc, is I'm gonna put you into a time machine. I'm gonna send you back to a younger version of yourself. This is right after you came out of chiropractic college, and you have all the life experience you have today, all the knowledge you have today. What would you say to that younger self?
Don't stress so much. It's gonna be okay.
Cool.
That's all I'll tell him.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, honestly, like how many times do we stress or sweat? It's kind of the cliche of the sweat the small stuff. And so, Doc, one final question before we wrap it up. And maybe before I do that, I'm going to just throw this out here for all of the listeners, because I want to make sure that they get this valuable information. So listeners, if you head over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com, you can actually find all the clickable links and resources for our conversation here today with Dr. Austin Cohen. If you're listening on your mobile right now, open your show notes. All the clickable links and resources are right there, including his email if you want to connect with him. All right, so Dr. Austin, any sort of resource, what are you listening to? What do people need to follow? Who do they need to follow? Any resources at all you want to drop on docs?
Well, one I already shared, which was that book Traction, but there's another thing that I want to share. Every morning on my way to the office, I'm always listening to podcasts. Now, I can't say the chiropractic philanthropist, can I?
Yeah. Oh, I guess you could. Yeah.
So obviously this one, of course, right? But the one outside of the chiropractic world that I'm listening to, as far as from a business standpoint, is the Ask Gary V show. Some of you may have heard about it. If you've heard about it, the guy is awesome. He's a legend. The way he communicates is so perfect, and he's just such a real guy. That's what I love about him. He's so authentic. He tells it like it is. So I'm listening to his podcast pretty much every morning on my way to work and on my way home. The guy's a hustler. He's a hard worker, but he also understands, personal time as well.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to hear him speak, and actually even just be in a room of with 50 people with him for dinner a couple weeks ago. He's Man, he's a huge personality, and he is a brilliant mind, business mind, brilliant business mind. So yeah, definitely everyone check that out. Dr. Austin, I got to thank you so much for being on TCP Podcast today. I really enjoyed this conversation. I love when I get on and it's unique, and when doctors such as yourself execute and are helping more doctors be more successful. So thanks for giving back.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, this all goes along with the philanthropy, man. I mean, just giving back to the community, giving back to the service, and giving back to these chiropractors, helping them reach more people.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Chiropractic Philanthropist.